Well, hello everyone, and welcome to NATA's Legislative Real Talk. I'm your host, Ryan Wagasback, Senior Vice President with the National Air Transportation Association. I'm joined today with Jonathan Fryer, Vice President of Legislative Affairs. Jonathan?
Hey Ryan, how are you?
I'm good. So, some big changes in DC have taken place since January 20th, and one is continuing to come down as this infrastructure discussion. What are we seeing? How much? And what are the impacts to our membership?
You're right. This is really one of the big promises made good from this president. President Biden talked a lot about doing a big infrastructure bill on the campaign trail. And this is really in keeping with sort of his legislative timeline, right? I mean, he said coming into office, we're going to put more shots in arms. We're going to work on the vaccine. We're going to do another big economic package. And then we're going to turn to infrastructure. And that's where we are. It's a multi-trillion dollar plan. There is just over $600 billion for transportation specifically in the bill. Just so folks know, there's a lot of other stuff in the bill. And that's everything from vehicle electrification, resiliency for the electric grid, ports, money to improve school buildings, affordable housing, lead pipes, et cetera. So it's a big bill, and there's a big price tag for transportation in the bill.
Like you said, it's focused heavy. It's all on infrastructure. So it doesn't play into like the PSP funding for air carriers, correct?
That's right, and that's really important to remember. I want to clarify that this is not another COVID relief bill, and that's really important. The message the industry received from Capitol Hill last year, as you may remember, Congress tried to do a big infrastructure bill a year ago, and they did it between the two big COVID bills that they passed, and I think because of the way that it was couched, the industry went up to Capitol Hill and started making some asks for additional COVID relief. And we were told, no, that's not what this bill is. This is very specifically an infrastructure investment bill. And I think that's the way that this bill, President Biden's proposal, is going to be treated as well.
So you would say this administration is fairly bullish on aviation if we are looking at runway improvements, correct? Airport improvements, terminal improvements. Is that accurate?
That's right. I do agree. I think this administration and some of the early conversations that we have had with the political appointees at the U.S. Department of Transportation, I think they are very bullish on aviation. I think this administration understands just how imperative our industry is to the national economy, to connecting local and regional economies to each other. And yes, I expect that out of that $600 billion that's in the president's proposal, $25 billion is set aside for airports. And there's not a ton of detail, but the way that the proposal is currently structured is that it would be $25 billion through the existing airport improvement program. Probably some upgrades to what the proposal calls FAA assets. I interpret that to mean things like aids to navigation, presumably more money for next gen, and a new terminal construction program, and what they're calling multimodal access to airports. And I think that sort of remains to be seen how that money gets allocated or what's eligible for that money.
Is that eVTOL or UAM?
I think it could be, and I think the administration wants to think really broadly about what that is. You bring up a good point about eVTOL and UAM, right? I mean, a lot of that dialogue is under the guise of, well, we're going to put these vertiports in city centers, and there are going to be vertiports all over. But speaking sort of only for myself and my personal opinion, I think airports are going to continue to play a really crucial role in the eVTOL world, right? I mean, to your point, you've got to get from a city center to an airport. I live in the Washington region. I think about places like Dulles, right? Dulles is not an easy airport to get to from downtown DC. And so I think there are going to be a lot of places where those kind of multimodal connections, we're going to need some sort of overarching federal policy to facilitate that investment.
Well, I mean, you bring that up. I mean, one of the interesting things of the pandemic is that this desire and reshaping how we work and live, right? We don't necessarily have to live and work in a metropolitan or metroplex area. We can live more, remotely, but we still need to be able to have access to the larger fields to continue to travel and continue to perform, economic commerce. So that's a very interesting point.
Yeah.
Well, what else? How else is this going to affect?
You sort of hit the head on eVTOL. There are, the plan from the president doesn't specifically say eVTOL in it, but I expect that we're already hearing from our members and from other parts of the industry that there's an interest in trying to promote that. I think what I want our members to be aware of is that, the president on the campaign trail really talked a lot about viewing federal investment in infrastructure through the lens of sustainability. So trying to make smart investments in things that will have positive sustainability and climate impacts, right? And so I think, there's a lot of promising progress on zero emission aviation technology. And I think we're going to try to see the industry find a way to work with the government to ensure that when that technology hits the market, that we are properly equipped to operate and to service them. And to that end, I think the other thing that I would mention, which is also not specifically called out in the president's proposal, is sustainable aviation fuels, right? I mean, we have been really talking to our members and taking a sort of thought leadership role in this, right, in sustainable aviation fuels. And to that end, I think we're going to see legislation that will support additional research and production of sustainable aviation fuels. One more thing I want to say is, as folks are looking at or thinking about the president's proposal, it's important to remember that it's just a proposal. The president doesn't write legislative text. He's not constitutionally empowered to do so. And so, the president has talked a lot about this. He is working through Secretary Buttigieg to develop some allies on Capitol Hill and to really lean on their friends to produce a legislative draft that mirrors as closely as possible, what the White House wants. And then, of course, in the process of doing that, they will have to attract support from the other side of the aisle. So it's going to be a very interesting next few months.
So that I love how you said that, because that is it. This is just the beginning. We have no idea what this is going to come out in the end looking like. So members, be aware, stay tuned. We will have more. Fair statement?
Absolutely. I would say stay tuned and stay engaged with us, right? This is it is not fully baked. It's not at the finish line. And so we, NATA and our members, I think, still have a very good opportunity to influence this process. And we're already working to do that. And we, as always, we need to hear from our members what their needs are and how we can work to try to affect a solution.
Fantastic. Jonathan, thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.